Good morning, everyone. This is Kendall Askins from Stimulated Minds. Askins stimulates on all of our social media platforms, joining you another day with another Rethinking Math. And today I want to talk to you guys about something that I hear about all of the time. And it is this idea of where do we actually use math in our everyday lives, right? Like, I know that there are so many students who ask, why are we learning this, right? Especially people that struggle or do not love math, are just doing it because they have to. They're like, why are we doing this? And the most famous line that math teachers use, math educators use is like, oh, math is everywhere, right? It's everywhere. You're going to need it in your everyday life. You're going to have to use it. So you need to learn it. And when I go on Facebook or when I go on other social media platforms, I've seen memes, I've seen jokes that say things like, I still haven't used y equals mx plus b in my everyday life, right? And people are laughing and chiming in and saying, me either. Like, why did we have to sit there and learn that? And so today I'm challenging that thinking a little bit, right? Because we have been thinking about it as such a surface level. We've been thinking about it as literally, what I'm going to do with my life, am I going to use this exact thing that I am learning about today, right? And it's deeper than that. So we've been talking in our Rethinking Math series about math really being about identifying patterns and problem solving and thinking, right? That's what math helps us provide. And so we can understand things at a deeper level when we understand how to solve different math problems. But what you don't realize is that even if you personally are not using math every single day, right? Math is being used every day to make decisions, to understand things, and to influence certain things that are happening in the world. So I have a number of examples. So a basic example is like weather patterns, right? To understand some different weather patterns, there are different pictures and things that are looked at, and there are mathematical patterns that are identified so that meteorologists can understand maybe things that are coming, things that have happened, stuff like that. And so that's being used to inform the public. Another big way that math is used is data and statistics. Now, this is used sometimes and given us misinformation. I'll give you a perfect example of something that can be misinformed. So, for example, if I say to you, 100% of my students, have success or go to Ivy League schools. 100% of the students that I work with do that. And you might be like, oh my God, 100%, that means that she's amazing. But there's a question that you should ask after that, right? 100% of how many students, right? So if I only worked with one student, that means I just had one student that went to an Ivy League school. But if I say, one student that I worked with went to an Ivy League school, it doesn't sound that impressive. But when I say 100%, it sounds more impressive, right? But if 100% of 1,000 students that I worked with went to Ivy League schools, now we're talking. And so it's really important that even when we look at information that's given to us, whether it's on the news, whether it's Facebook, things like that, when they're presented in percents, right, or statistics in that manner, it's designed to give the narrative that whoever the presenter is wants to give. And so it's very important that you ask questions, right? How it is. Math is also being used for decision making and policies and politics, right? So for example, we have state representatives, we have local representatives, and the way that those local representatives and things are put in seats is by the people that live in the areas. Well, they are using math to draw the boundary lines so that certain areas are getting certain groups of representation, right? And can guarantee certain seats. It's a very real thing that has been taken to court and all of these type of things. And so when we don't understand how mathematics is being used for these type of things, we're just going with the flow, thinking things are coincidental, thinking that it's just people voting or things happening. And it's not. It is very strategic because mathematics allows you to know what an outcome is going to be. And so people who understand mathematics are using that mathematics to then influence the larger population. And because the larger population is not necessarily understanding how that works or what that is, we're just going with the flow, thinking that this is just what it is. And so when I go back to this concept of where do we use our math in everyday life, even if you are not yourself using y equals mx plus b, right? You need to understand that mathematics is being used for you to influence. And if you are not learning how to ask questions around the information that you're being given, right, then you're going to end up maybe voting or making decisions that you maybe wouldn't have made if you were more informed. And so it is about the application of it, and it is about understanding that it is being used to make decisions. And so even if you personally are not using it, it's being used to influence your life. And so you need to have that understanding so that you can be making informed decisions, understanding how things work, asking questions to understand things in a way that makes sense for you. You don't necessarily have to understand the mathematics behind the decisions that are being made, but you need to understand that mathematics is being used, and then therefore being able to ask a question that you need to ask to have the understanding that you need to have for your decision making. So again, I want to challenge you to rethink that language and rethink the idea that on the surface level, just because you actually are not solving equations in your everyday life, or that you are not graphing things, right, every day for your job or for your survival, I want to challenge you to understand that the math is being used for decisions for you and for your everyday. And so I want you to be truly informed. So as we continue to rethink math, let's reframe our words and let's seek more understanding in what is being used and how that information is being shared with us. So, if this was interesting to you, or if this was something new to you, let's see our comment below of like, what came up for you as you are hearing this information. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this video out, save this video for later so you can replay it and understand it at an even deeper level. I will see you guys back here next week for more fun. Bye.